Picture this: a quiet street, a couple of cameras rolling, and a few unsuspecting officers about to face a masterclass in civil rights. In this episode of When Cops Get Completely Schooled and Get Owned, we dive into a First Amendment audit that's as educational as it is eye-opening. It all starts with a simple question: can I see your ID? But what happens next flips the script entirely. Our protagonist stands firm, armed with knowledge of the law and unwavering confidence. The tension rises as the officers realize they've underestimated their opponent. Lines are drawn, questions fly, and the lesson begins. How far will this standoff go? Who will come out on top? Stick around, because this isn't just about rights. It's about accountability, respect, and the power of standing your ground. You don't want to miss this one. The officers, clearly caught off guard, exchange uncertain glances. Their casual authority is met with calm but firm resistance. The person standing before them isn't aggressive or confrontational, just confident. They know their rights, and it's clear they've done this before. The request for identification, something so routine and often unquestioned, becomes the focal point of this standoff. Am I being detained? They ask, their voice steady and deliberate. It's a simple question, but one that shifts the energy immediately. The officers hesitate, seemingly searching for the right response. The tension builds as passersby start to take notice. The cameras, always rolling, capture every moment of this increasingly awkward exchange. Who's in the right? Who's in the wrong? It's not about disrespect. It's about boundaries, knowledge, and a deeper question. How much do we really know about our own rights? The air is thick with anticipation, and the story is just getting started. One officer steps forward, trying to reassert control. "We're just asking for your cooperation," they say, their tone teetering between polite and authoritative. But the person standing their ground doesn't flinch. Cooperation isn't the same as compliance. They reply, their words deliberate and sharp, cutting through the tension like a blade. The camera zooms in slightly, capturing the officer's reaction as they weigh their next move. Meanwhile, the second officer starts scanning the surroundings, perhaps hoping for something to tip the situation in their favor. The person filming, however, stays laser-focused, capturing every exchange with an unshakable steadiness. "Do you suspect me of a crime?" comes the next question, and it lands like a curveball. The officers pause, their hesitation betraying a crack in their confidence. The scene grows more layered as curious onlookers linger nearby. Some seem intrigued, others uneasy, and a few quietly record on their phones. The clash between authority and accountability becomes a spectacle, with both sides now playing to an unspoken audience. What will happen next? That's the question hanging in the air, unanswered and electric. The lead officer takes a deep breath, their voice firm but noticeably less confident now. "We just need to know who we're talking to," they insist, their words measured, as though trying to regain control of the conversation. But their tone doesn't match the growing unease in their eyes. The question from earlier lingers in the air: do they have a lawful reason to demand identification? The tension is palpable, like a rubber band stretched to its limit. The person being questioned doesn't back down. Instead, they press forward with the calm precision of someone who knows their rights inside and out. "If I'm not being detained, then I'm free to go," they say, taking a small step back. It's a calculated move, subtle but bold. The officers shift uneasily, caught in a balancing act between asserting authority and avoiding overstepping their bounds. A crowd begins to form, quiet murmurs filling the space as bystanders wonder how this will unfold. The officers seem to feel the weight of the extra eyes, the pressure mounting with every passing second. One of them reaches for their radio, the slight motion sending ripples through the growing audience. Is it a bluff, a call for backup, or something else entirely? The cameras catch everything: the glances, the body language, the unspoken power struggle. Everyone watching, both in person and through the lens, is holding their breath, waiting for the next move in this high-stakes encounter. Just as the tension reaches its peak, the officer with the radio lowers it without speaking, choosing instead to take another approach. Look, they say, their tone shifting to something almost conciliatory. This doesn't have to go any further. Just show us your ID, and we can all move on. It feels like a last-ditch effort, but it only adds fuel to the fire. The person standing their ground smirks slightly, recognizing the shift in strategy. That's not how it works. They reply calmly, you don't get to sidestep the law just because it's convenient. Then comes the twist no one expected. A bystander, a middle-aged woman holding a shopping bag, steps forward. Excuse me, she says loudly enough to cut through the murmurs, but I think they're right. Her sudden interjection turns heads, and the officers freeze, clearly caught off guard. I've seen videos like this, she continues, her voice unwavering. Unless they're detained, you don't have the right to demand ID. Isn't that the law? The crowd stirs, emboldened by her statement. Phones are now raised high, capturing every angle of the unfolding drama. The officers exchange looks, their carefully constructed authority starting to waver under the growing pressure. The woman, undeterred, adds, we're all watching, and this isn't looking good for you. The dynamic has shifted entirely. It's no longer one person standing up to authority. It's a group questioning the actions of those in power. The officers now face not just a single individual, but a collective voice challenging them to follow the rules they're sworn to uphold. The stakes couldn't be higher, and the question on everyone's mind remains: how will this end? The tension hits its breaking point as the lead officer glances at the growing crowd, visibly weighing their options. They straighten up, their voice steady but laced with frustration. All right, they say, you're not being detained, but we're trying to ensure everyone's safety here. It feels like an attempt to save face, but the person standing their ground doesn't let up. If I'm free to go, then I'm going, they respond firmly, turning toward the crowd with a slight nod. For a moment, it seems like it's over. The officers reluctantly step back, the bystanders' bold intervention cementing the shift in power. But just as the person starts walking away, a young man in the crowd calls out, "Hey, wait." He steps forward, holding his phone up, and says, "I got the whole thing on video, and I'm sending it to your department." The officers freeze, their carefully controlled expressions faltering. The crowd murmurs, some applauding the unexpected move. The person stops, turning back for a final word. This isn't just about me, they say, their voice calm but resolute. It's about knowing our rights and making sure everyone is held accountable. That includes you. The officers exchange a look, their authority shaken but intact, before quietly retreating to their patrol car. The crowd slowly disperses, buzzing with conversation and newfound awareness. As the camera pans out, the person walks away with quiet confidence, leaving behind a powerful reminder. Standing up for your rights isn't always easy, but it's always worth it. The final twist. The young man's video goes viral that same night, sparking a nationwide conversation about accountability and the power of knowing the law. As the officers drive off, the street settles back into its usual rhythm, but the energy in the air feels different. People exchange knowing glances, some inspired, others deep in thought. The person who stood their ground walks away without a word, leaving behind a powerful impression that speaks louder than any speech ever could. That night, the young man's video circulates across social media, sparking a wave of discussions. Comments flood in, some applauding the courage it takes to challenge authority, others reflecting on the importance of knowing your rights. The bystander who spoke up is praised for standing in solidarity, proving that one voice can inspire many. In the end, this isn't just a story about one moment. It's a reminder that awareness and accountability are forces of change. Knowing your rights doesn't just protect you. It empowers everyone around you to stand stronger together.